Hello. Today we are looking at the Value Vintage deck Scam. Now, this isn't a version that's like particular. I made this version myself, so things might be a bit scuffed. Numbers might be incorrect. There might be some cards I should be playing, but I'm not. This is the version I've played for a bit now because, unfortunately, my favorite deck, Nexus of Fate, can't be played in the format anymore for, well, reasons. Anyways, today we're going to look at my new favorite deck, which is by far Scam. It's a very cool kind of like mid-rangey deck with an interesting combo in it. That's why I like to play it. I mean, if you play Modern, you know the base idea, right? We're going to start with Fury. Fury is an evoke elemental, which means you can evoke it by exiling a card from your hand, in this case a red card. It allows you to cast it for free without paying its mana cost. However, you have to sacrifice it when it enters. And that's where these next cards come in. Supernatural Stamina and Undying Malice. The other parts of about the +1/+1 encounter and stuff aren't the huge deal. What matters is the until end of turn this creature gets, when this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped. That means when this creature dies, Fury or Grief, which is our other elemental, they return to the battlefield, and you've effectively spent 3 cards and 1 mana to get either a 3/3 double striker that can deal a lot of damage and wipe some creatures, or for a double Thoughtseize and a 3/2 menace. It's a very good combo, a very solid thing to build a deck around. And we're supporting it with a lot of very good mid-range cards in the format. So when you think of mid-range in the Value Vintage format, your staples are your initiative creatures. In this case, 2 Ravenloft Adventure, 2 Caves of Chaos Adventure. We're going for an even split because we want a good amount of red and black cards to be able to exile to Grief and Fury. And that's why we are also playing our 2 other removal type creatures in Bonecrusher Giant and Shriek Maw. So Bonecrusher Giant has Stomp, 2 damage to any target, damage can't be prevented. Basically like a slightly worse Skullcrack, but it comes with a 4/3, so it's pretty good. And then you have Shriek Maw, which is evoke for 2, destroy target non-black, non-artifact creature, and it has fear, can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and black creatures. Very solid card and a good supernatural stamina or undying malice target if we can't get Fury or Grief. And then lastly, for our creature slot, we have Preacher of the Schism. Now, Preacher of the Schism is a very good card. Death Touch gives you bodies and draws you cards. Like everything you want in a good mid-range creature. And let's talk a little more about these initiative creatures. We don't really care about the initiative abilities because we're not trying to clear a dungeon. We're just trying to get some good value to finish out the game with the first couple rooms of the Undercity. And if you've played Pauper or Legacy or even Commander or Baldur's Gate Draft, you know how strong the initiative is. A very good card with a lot of really strong abilities. Very worth it to play cards like Ravenloft Adventure and Caves of Chaos Adventure. Next, we'll go into our instant and sorceries. These are all going to be disruption pieces, removal. So we're playing Chain Lightning instead of Lightning Bolt because, as you know, in Value Vintage, decks can only be $30, and we're playing it a bit close, which means we don't really have the budget to play Lightning Bolt, so that's why we're going Chain Lightning instead. Inquisition of Kozilek. Inquisition of Kozilek, just good, solid, able to help us prevent our opponents from doing anything too crazy early in the game, to allow us, if we don't have our Grief or Fury, to play a solid, strong, mid-range plan. Lightning Bolt does the same thing as Chain Lightning, good for dealing quick removal or finishing off an opponent on low HP that has a lot of good blockers. And I already went over Supernatural Stamina and Undying Malice. And last we have Terminate. Terminate is a very good above the rate removal spell. 2 mana, hits any creature, no drawbacks except for the fact that it's 2 different mana types. The upside of preventing regeneration too, which while it doesn't come up very often, can be particularly useful in certain circumstances. And next we have the lands. Land is very simple. 7 mountains, 9 swamps, a little more swamps. We have a little more black pips in this deck. 3 foreboding ruins, 3 dragon skull summons. Good cheap lands that tend to enter untapped and allow you to get both your colors. Now, this is where I'm less confident about this deck, in my opinion, where I think I could do some work, have some better cards. I have my sideboard. My sideboard has 2 dampening spheres for any, like, weird storm-style decks or decks that want to cast a lot of spells or use, like, Lotus Field, or it's also really good against Post, too. So if you're playing against Post or Tron, decks that are trying to make a lot of mana with their lands, this can shut that down as well. Stonebrain, just a one of in case you need to, like, snipe any weird specific card that you're really having issues with. Duress is just a better Inquisition Kozilek in specific circumstances. If you're playing against a non-creature heavy deck that you need to hit specific cards from or just destroy the hand of, it's very good to have a Duress. And next we have Ingot Chewer as our choice for artifact removal, since it's a very cheap card, only 9 cents, and can be used in combination with our Supernatural Staminas or our Undying Malices to get 2 artifact removals for 2 mana, 2 cards, and also a 3/3 body. Pretty solid card for these situations. And then we go Soul Guide Lantern for our Graveyard Hate because it just felt like the best option here, because only 23 cents, because we are spending a lot of our budget on 3 of these $3.56 griefs, which is why we have to be so tight, and also another on these $1.05 Preacher of the Schisms, which is why we got to be pretty tight with the budget. But it is very important to, hit graveyards. So that's why I chose Soul Guide Lantern. If you wanted to, if you're in a more, like, explosive graveyard format, like Dredge, you're playing against a lot of Dredge decks, you can go with a deck that put a lot of cards in the graveyard on the turn they intend to win. You can play Ravenous Trap instead of Soul Guide Lantern. Personally, I like Soul Guide Lantern better because you can immediately hit a card if you're playing against a Reanimator deck, and if you need to snipe a full graveyard for some reason, you can sack that Soul Guide Lantern whenever you need it, even if you play it on turn 1. Gives you that, like, insurance in a way. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but that's what I'm thinking, It's always there. It can hit a card immediately. Just a very good piece of Graveyard Hate. And next we can give you some stats here. A lot of 1-drops, Chain Lightnings, all of our removal and our pieces. Then at the 2-drop slot, we have Terminate, 3-drop slot, Bone Crusher, Preacher. 4 drops are obviously our Griefs, Caves of Chaos, but you're really never paying 4 mana for Grief, except for if you're in, like, the late game and you top deck it. Same with Fury at the 5 and Shriekmaw at the 5 as well. This is a very good, very powerful mid-range deck. I do like it. It can struggle in specific combo decks sometimes, but as long as you, mulligan correctly and try to put in your Duresses, or if it's an artifact combo, Ingot Chewer, that's really what the sideboard is. This deck struggles a lot sometimes in game 1 against combo decks, but can really get that game 2 against combo decks if they need to, with Ingot Chewer, if you're playing against, like, Cycle Storm or something that likes to use those cycle reducer artifacts, or again, Graveyard Hate against Cycle Storm, or if you're playing against, like, the High Tide deck, you can use Duress, hit their High Tide, and then, use Stonebrain. I'm not sure what I want to do with numbers yet. I might drop, like, a Duress and a Soul Guide Lantern to play, like, some more Stonebrains. I'm not quite sure yet, though. But if I would do anything to change this deck, I would add more Stonebrains, because it's just a very solid card. Very cheap form of this type of effect, too, because a lot of the really good versions of this effect, like Extirpate and Surgical Extraction, are quite pricey. Like, Extirpate's like $1, I think, so it's pretty hard for this deck to use. But yeah, so this is really what I think of this Scam deck. It is a very interesting, very cool, and really, really fun deck to play. Like, I enjoy playing this deck so much. I've played it a couple times this morning just so I could get, like, a better feel going into this recording. I do really think this is a deck that you should play if you like mid-rangey type decks in this format, because the Value Vintage can be a bit combo heavy sometimes, I feel, but combo, control, maybe like Post or something. Post is a weird deck. I like Post, though. Tell me if I should do a review of a Post deck list. I haven't played a Post deck before, but I think it'd be cool. Also, I've been thinking about maybe doing some Commander stuff, like going over my Commander decks. So if you're interested in me showing off, like, my Commander decks, I'd love to do that. Also, I want to try and get some Value Vintage gameplay. I just don't really have a good setup for that right now, because I don't really have MTG Online or like a good recording setup. Also, I don't have most of these value vintage decks in real life because I don't like it, the decks are only $30, but I only have like my Next of Fate deck that I can't play because again, the card is like $7 right now. It's insane. But if you want me to do more stuff like this, like, subscribe, leave a comment. I do want to do more deck reviews, do more Magic stuff. I'm making a couple shorts about like value vintage deck archetypes or maybe Pauper. If you want to see some Pauper, say so because I love Pauper. I'd love to talk about Pauper, especially with my like weird Pauper deck that I play. It's not weird, it's just old. But yeah, if you want to see any more like specific Magic content from this channel, like comment about it. I'd probably do it since I really enjoy making videos about Magic. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and that's probably all I have for you today about this awesome scam deck. I definitely recommend checking it out, trying to play it a bit. Great deck. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and this is LB Swimmer saying good night for today. Oh, I forgot. Follow me on Twitch. I want to do more Twitch streaming, so you should follow me on Twitch as well. Bye.